Many times in life, it's actually easier to figure out what not to do versus figuring out what specifically you have to do. The reason why this is an interesting idea is because sometimes there's really only one solution and one pathway to get to where you want to go. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. But almost always, without fail, it there are many things that you could do wrong. There are many things that like you it's very easy to see, oh, this is like the wrong thing, like this is something you should not do, this is advice you should not take, basically. And sometimes there are actually like books and things that you see that are actually like that's actually like a good life lesson, but in the opposite direction. It's the reverse life lesson. It's basically like what not to do in life. If you want to live a good life, what should you not do? And sometimes it's easier and it's more defined to figure out what not to do versus figuring out what to do. Sometimes it is a little bit more it is a little bit more creative trying to figure out what to do. It's a little bit more mysterious. You don't really know what to do. It's hard to actually find the pathway for your life because each and every one of our lives are different. But sometimes it actually is very easy to look at other people and say, okay, that's definitely not something you want to do. I'll give a couple of examples of this idea. It's definitely an interesting idea. It's definitely an interesting concept. The reason why I'm talking about this is because I've been reading a book called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. Just over the last couple of weeks, I've been reading it, and I've been talking about it. And certain concepts that I've talked about on this show the last couple of weeks have been in relation to the book, because it's just something interesting. It's just an interesting perspective that I just wanted to share. So this week has kind of just been the week of just fun, interesting, deep delve topics and ideas. So might as well make another one to kind of round off the week. It's the last. Well, I mean, it is Sunday. It depends on how you look at it, but yeah, Sunday is actually the first day of the week, really. But depending on how you look at it, it's Sunday. It's the Lord's Day. But for the point of just this episode, it's going to be another just constructive idea based episode. But it's because, like, in the book, there was like a question asked. Basically, the book is about this guy, and he literally interviews the devil himself. Whether or not it was a real interview, or if it was just a creative expression, a creative way to express his ideas, that's up for interpretation. It's up for interpretation. It's up for you to figure out. But it's definitely interesting, for sure. Like, that is something that it for sure is. It's interesting. And then, like, a question comes up in the interview where, like, the devil, he asks, well, why did you come to me, the devil, instead of going to my opposition? And of course, the devil's opposition is God, right? But like, the reason why is really because sometimes it's easier to find out what not to do than it is to figure out what to do. And then that is part of the reason why it's easy to instruct people against certain tendencies than it is to tell them what specifically you should do. Because it's easy to say, oh, don't drink, don't smoke. Like, that ruins your brain and ruins your mind. Don't do drugs, don't do any of this stuff. It's much easier to figure out, oh, you don't do these things. But then what do you do instead? What do you do, like, to actually go and do it, right? It's easy. Okay, yes, let's get into some examples, right? To make it kind of to make it make sense, basically, right? So the book, basically, what you need to know is the book is kind of the foundation for this thought. And it wasn't specific, like, it wasn't something that was talked about for chapters and chapters on end in the book. It was just one small thing in the book that I nitpicked and I took out, and I was like, yeah, no, that makes sense. Sometimes it is actually easier to figure out what not to do than it is to figure out what to do. So, because sometimes it's more vague, it's more ambiguous. That's a word that I was looking for a little bit earlier. It's ambiguous sometimes what you need to do because all of our lives are different. But it's very, very obvious sometimes what not to do, because certain things and certain tendencies hurt all humans. And you can put into categories of things that hurt all of us, not just a few of us. Whereas certain pathways and patterns of behavior and certain good things will work for some people and it won't work for some people. So instead of having a framework, this is how you should live your life, it should be, and it makes sense to me that it should be, these are the things that you should not do, that you should avoid, and anything else, you can make it a little bit more vague, a little bit more ambiguous, a little bit more mysterious. And I think that's okay, because in life you should try and you should fail and you should do a thing, and it shouldn't, and it doesn't work out, and then you learn from it, and then you grow, and then you find the thing that does work out. But for example, let's give a couple of examples as to what not to do in life, and it's obvious what not to do in life, but it's a little bit more ambiguous what the proper correct way to do the thing is. So in relationships, right, in romance and in sexual desires, this was definitely a thing talked about in the book a lot, and that's why it's an example that I'm giving. Is it seems very obvious what not to do. It seems very obvious that hookup culture and just having sex for the pleasure of it, right? Wearing protection. Whenever you wear protection, by the way, it is because you're having sex for the pleasure of it. So that's why I disagree with it, because it's like that's the whole point of it. And then of course it gets into the biblical perspective, the Christian perspective, the stuff that I try to live my life by. But like fornication as a word in and of itself, sex for the pleasure of it is not fruitful. Sex, of course, outside of a deep loving bond between man and woman is not fruitful. and and even in relationships there are bad things that you can have with sex. Of course, if you cheat on someone, that's obviously not good, right? If you watch porn, if you masturbate, like that's obviously not healthy at all. And I think it's pretty obvious that we're seeing that I guess the science is slowly starting to come out a little bit about just how bad it is for your brain and for you as a person. So it's easy to see what's not fruitful, like what you shouldn't do when it comes to your sexual desires. Like your sexual desires are there; they will always be there, and we as humans, we all have it, and it can be used to be an absolutely beautiful thing, or it can be used just and abused to be something that is just for the pleasure of it, and you just become literally like you become literally like monkey brain, like, oh, me have sex, me feel good, right? Caveman brain, and that's not something that's going to be fruitful. But then, what does a good positive relationship with sex, a good positive relationship with your significant other, with a woman in romance and in love, what does that actually look like? That's actually a little bit more. That's harder to define. Like it is absolutely harder to define, because you can say it as simple as, okay, you wait to marriage till you have sex, and then you only have sex with one person for your whole life, and in marriage, like that's a good way, that's a good guideline, at least in my opinion. At least that's what God instructs us to do from the biblical perspective. But even in marriages, sex, like, what do you do, right? Do you have sex every day, right? Like one person wants to have sex and the other person doesn't want to have sex, and then it causes tension, it causes friction, right? And then of course that's what leads to the opening the door of cheating and the worst of it, where it's like someone, you just want something new and different, or maybe you're having sex but it's just flat, right? Like, so even that's a little bit more ambiguous. So what does a good relationship with your sexual desires look like? It's a little bit more ambiguous. It's very, very easy to look at it and say, okay, this is what it shouldn't be, right? And I've just described what it shouldn't be. Well, what it should be, it's a little bit more ambiguous, and it looks a little bit different, right? It's like if you've been with someone for a couple months and you decide off of a limb to get married to them, versus if you've been with someone for a year, you're not married but you have sex. It's like what's the difference, right? You've spent more time with someone, you feel like you're closer together with someone for a longer period of time, but just like the piece of paper, the certificate is like the thing that allows you to have sex with someone. Like, I don't know. I'm still working on this idea. I'm still trying to figure out what I kind of am looking for in my life as well. But that's the entire point of me talking about this concept, that it's more ambiguous. It's harder to find the specific answer of what good sexual relationships look like. And I think it's necessary. No sex is not the answer either, because it's a necessary desire you have to fulfill in as humans. That's how it is, right? That's how you have children, right? That's how it goes. So, point is, it's easy to see what not to do, but it's much harder to see what specifically you need to do for it to be fruitful, for it to be abundant and fulfilling for both parties, for both man and woman. That's a pretty good example. Another example is food. It's in the food that you eat. It's very easy to see what you should not eat, right? Like junk food. It's very easy to define what junk food is, right? Fast food, lots of oils, lots of saturated fats, lots of extra sodium, lots of high amounts of sugar, high calories. It's very easy to look at those numbers and see when food is unhealthy for you, when it is bad for you. And it's very easy to avoid those things, right? And it's very, like, I mean, it's hard to avoid those things because it's temptation and it tastes good. But it's very easy to know, okay, you eat these things, it's going to be bad for you. It's bad for your body, and it's not fruitful. It's not actually going to give you the energy you need to live your day. And of course it's going to make you fat over a long period of time, and we've seen that throughout the West, at least in Western society, how it's really harmed the bodies of a lot of people eating this type of food. But then what does good food look like? It is a little bit more ambiguous. It's a little bit more vague, right? I think maybe, like, at least for me, the most important thing is single ingredient foods, right? So fruits and vegetables and eggs and meat, and think of things that only have one ingredient, that are not processed, that aren't added to in any way. But even some of those things are not necessarily good. Like, even some of those things are added to in some ways, just because we live in a culture where that's the case, right? So, like, even, fruits have pesticides and fertilizer and stuff, and there are things that can be in there that are unhealthy for you. And it's like even meats are filled with stuff sometimes, and they're just juiced up with stuff that sometimes cannot be so good for you. So you got to be careful as to where you get your food from. You got to be careful as to where you, like, just where you get it from. Like you can maybe, like, there are certain types of meats that are better for you than others, right? You can look at bacon, right? You can look at bacon, or you can look at cold cuts like turkey and stuff. Like, that stuff is not really actually that good for you, but it does have the protein. Sausages, like, you can look at it and say that it's good for you, but you can look at one metric, the protein, and say, okay, yeah, it has good protein, but you can look at the cholesterol, you can look at the fats, and you can say, it's actually not really that good. So for food, there's a little bit of a guideline. And then there's this whole thing with the milk, like the dairy products that, first of all, a lot of people are allergic to milk. A lot of people can't really drink milk anymore because I guess it's just like allergies have increased because of, I guess, just the bad food that we have in the system. But, like, it's been kind of that argument. It's like, are dairy foods good for you? In my opinion, they are. In my opinion, milk is great for you. It has calcium. It has many great vitamins and minerals that you need in your life and you need every day. Yogurt is a very good food for you. You can put it in smoothies. You can have it for breakfast. I think I think it's great for you. And then it's like cheese. Cheese is more a little bit because it's a little bit more processed. But I think the right cheese is also pretty good for you as well. But the point is, it's like you have to differentiate. You have to really, like, kind of look at, like, two different types of cheeses. Like, you have, like, your grocery cheddar cheese versus, like, a more authentic cheese. It's actually, like, a pretty big difference. So again, you can see me just rambling away and ranting about this thing and ranting about this topic, because it's easy to see what is bad for you. It's easy to see what the worst of it looks like. The junk food, right? The pizza, the chips, the ice cream, like the Ben and Jerry's, right? Like, it's very easy to look at what is bad for you, and what is just not going to be good for your body. You're not fueling your body with good stuff. It's very easy to look at that, like pop and soda and all that stuff. But it is way harder to figure out what specifically is the best combination for you in your body, right? Like, even me in my life, like, I don't even think I'm at that point where I have found that combination, because honestly, like, I still eat cereal for breakfast, and maybe I should not be eating cereal for breakfast. And I think the more and more I'm thinking about it, I should really be improving in that, right? I do my best to eat healthy, but I definitely still eat a lot of those processed foods, a lot of foods that combine a lot of different things together. So the question is, it's like, how do I do better? So and even in my life, I find that I don't actually have, like, an absolutely perfect relationship with the food I eat yet either. So so that's another example. It's another very important example of what not to do, right? It's easy to see what not to do. It's hard to figure out what it is to do. And then maybe the final example I want to give is in sales. I think sales is also a very, very good example of it's easy to see what not to do. It's harder to figure out what to do, because sales is a great example, because there are many different combinations you can figure out what to do, right? For you to figure out, for you to actually have success in sales, to make sales, to actually get revenue from it. And obviously, I have the experience in my life actually being in there for certain periods of time, being in that, like, very hardcore door to door sales, direct sales, really, like, shoving stuff down people's throats and trying to make money that way. And I was pretty good at it. I was like I actually had some successes with it. So in many different episodes in this show, I've kind of imparted my wisdom. I've shown some of the things I've learned from it. But it's easy to see what bad salesmanship looks like, right? It's easy to see it, right? If you're like a con artist, you're lying about the product, and you're lying about, maybe you're kind of stretching the price, or you don't want to say the price. You're really like going, you're really trying to say everything before you get to the price. You're just kind of you're withholding certain information from the customer. You're lying about the price, or you're trying your best to withhold it, or you're just purely lying about some of the services and some of the parts of the technology, the parts of the thing that you're trying to sell. And then, of course, if and when you sell the thing, you just kind of sell it and then you forget about the customer, right? Like, so that's bad salesmanship. That's pretty obvious. Like, it's like, that's pretty much, you're a con artist. You're just trying to make money for yourself, and you don't really care about the other person. Like, you don't care about the person you're actually selling the product to. You get the money, you kind of convince them to sign the paper, to sign the agreement, to sign the contract, and then you get your commission, and then you just pretty much just F off and move on to the next, right? That's bad salesmanship, and it's pretty obvious to see, right? Because then people will complain because you lied to them about something, and people will look at their bill and they'll be like, why is it so much higher than what this guy was telling me about, right? You have to be, and I found that I had success by just being completely honest and by focusing on sales as a way of serving people. So I was selling internet and TV and cell phones. So it's like that's a very big place to have like some scammy stuff, right? But for me, how I went about it is I'd be honest with the price. I would give the after-tax price. A lot of people, they give the pre-tax price, and then like obviously the price is so much higher because of tax. I give the after-tax price. I'm like, and then I still compare it to their previous price that they were paying. Even after tax, it's still a great deal. So I'd be completely honest about the price. After tax, I would say specifically what the services are, and if it's not good, like if it's not a good decision for the person, I'm not going to just continue to shove it down their throat. Like if I'm only saving them like $10 a month, it's not really worth it, right? But if I'm saving people a lot of money, and if I'm giving them a better product than they already have, then that's good. Then that is something that is actually that's actually like good salesmanship, right? And then people, and I've had problems where people would complain about the service, like the guy would come to install the stuff and he'd do an absolutely terrible job, he'd botch it, and then they'd come to me to complain. But I'm there, and me, and of course like the people that I had around me, my team helping me, were there to help these people, so that instead of just effing off and taking our commission and leaving, we make sure that it actually gets installed, that the service is actually good for them. So so all of these things kind of combined make for good salesmanship, right? But there are many different pathways you could do to get to that point. It's easy to see what, like, a con artist salesman looks like, right? But it's also not specifically down to, oh, if you lie to the person, you're a bad salesman. If you tell the truth to a person, you're a bad salesman. No, at the same time, there's also other strategies and techniques of persuasion that you do need to get someone to buy something, because you can tell the truth about a product, but maybe it's just not a good product, and it's not a good product, so you need to find ways to tell the truth, but like it's a balance, right? It's a balance, because sometimes you do have to withhold information if it's actually like something that'll turn people off. That if the product is not a good product, it'll turn people off if you say one specific part of it. I was lucky that I actually had some pretty good products to sell during my time, and I had pretty good offers and pretty good deals during my time there, so I was able to use that and make a lot of money from it. But that's not always the case with of course in the cell phone, the internet, the technology business, but also in any other type of thing you're trying to sell. So it's easy to see what a bad salesman looks like. It's maybe it's a little bit more defined as to what a good salesman looks like, but there's many different sales tactics and ways and methods of persuasion. You have different ways that you go about it. Like there are different ways to close, for example. Like I would compare myself to my team leader, who's just such a formidable sales guy. Like he really did like a hard close. Like he really did like a so whose name am I putting this under? Like he was literally like right in there. I didn't really do that. I tried to make it more like a more smooth transition. Like it's like, okay, if this makes sense for you, let's get this done, right? Type of thing. Like it wasn't like as hard. Like he really like it was funny how just intense he was. Like I don't think it's bad. Like he was a great salesman. It's not bad salesmanship because he cared about the client, he cared about the customer all the same. But it's just different methods to getting to the close, and it's different methods to convincing and to persuasion. Those types of things are a little bit more ambiguous. The way you go about it, it's like it's easy to see what scammy sales look like. But it's a little bit harder to see what good salesmanship looks like because there are many different ways you can be a good salesman. Like, of course, the honesty part I think is maybe a good framework, but there are different ways of persuasion. There are different ways to close the client. There are different ways to actually get it done. And all of which fall under the umbrella of this is good salesmanship. So it's harder to see specifically which one is the best for you. You actually have to be in there and you actually have to figure out what works best for you, and then that's how you'll be a good salesman. Versus the fact that it's very easy to see, okay, you should avoid lying and stretching the truth and all this stuff because first of all, like you're just lying, and just morally it's just not good, but also at the same time you're giving them something, you're promising them something that they're not gonna get. You're promising I cannot speak. You're promising them something that they are not going to get, so inevitably they're going to complain. Most people will realize, oh, like, especially if you really, really lied to them, like they'll realize, like, what the hell is this? This is not even close to what they told me about. So first of all, they'll go and they'll try and get a refund, which that's going to ruin your commission anyway, and or they'll just complain, which might even be worse. Like, they'll just literally be angry at you about the situation, and then it's up to you to deal with it. So those are some examples. Those are just a couple of examples, but there are many different things in life that it's very easy to see what not to do. It's harder to find the specific pathway as to what to do. So maybe when you're consuming stuff online, and I made an episode yesterday talking about the whole self-improvement sphere and all that stuff and how people are sick and tired of it, because I think a big reason is because so many different people are talking about so many different ideas, where it's like you're in charge of your life. Like, it is your pathway in your life. Like, you're not going to live your life the same way that all of these self-help gurus are living their lives. And you're going to have different experiences. And you're going to go through different failures and setbacks and mistakes. And you're going to learn different lessons from it. But maybe a framework that could be something actually useful, actually applicable to you, is the fact that it's actually easy to see what not to do. It's easy to find out, okay, it's pretty obvious here what not to do. And then what actually the pathways and the things you do to actually make it to successes or to fulfillment in your life, in whatever aspect it is, it's harder to figure out what to do, because for different people it works differently, right? As I'll just kind of go back to the 3 examples I gave. In relationships, it is also down to who you're with, right? Maybe they're more open to sex, or maybe they're less open to sex, or whatever it may be, right? And it's about communication, and it's about figuring out who you're with and figuring out how you can bond with that person. And it's completely different with different people. Makes sense, right? But there may be some more strict guidelines as to what probably won't work. That's pretty good. For food, there's different types of food, and even sometimes it's down to like different company that you buy from, different manufacturer, the different farm that you get it from. Some of them do well, like some of them do it honestly, some of them don't, right? So it's like, so it can be down to something that nuanced and that simple, and it's not simple, it's that complicated. But it's very obvious to see, like, okay, yes, like if you eat a freaking thing of pizza, it's not good for you, right? If you eat a whole pizza, it's not good for you, right? If you eat a whole tub of ice cream, it's not good for you, right? But some other things is a little bit more ambiguous, right? It's a little bit more vague. It's a little bit more like, okay, it can sometimes be that specific, that down to the company, which makes a difference between something good for your body and something not good for your body. And in sales, there are many different ways that you can be a good salesman. Many, many different ways. Many ways that you can make it happen. But there's definitely a very specific thing that you can see, okay, like this is just bad salesmanship. This makes you feel like a con artist, and this is just not good. This is just not something you should be doing. And it's going to cause you all sorts of problems. It's going to cause the people that you're selling to all sorts of problems. It's better to just be a good salesman. You'll make a lot more money being an honest, good salesman regardless. So that's the point. That's the point I'm trying to make, is that sometimes it really is easier to figure out what not to do versus trying to find the answer as to what to do. So start with that. I think in your life, start with that. Start with figuring out, okay, this is definitely not a good thing. This is definitely not what I want to do with my life. Like, I definitely don't want to be here. I definitely don't want to be this type of a person. So you start with that, and then maybe eventually you can find the answers as to what you actually want to do with your life, the career you want, the relationship you want, the person you want to be, certain philosophies you want to live your life with. But first you should start with eliminating some of the negatives, eliminating some of the things that you definitively don't want to be a part of and you don't want your life philosophy to be about. and then slowly kind of moving to the specifics of what you actually want. But it's much easier to start with elimination than it is to actually than it is with the addition of certain ideas and certain philosophies, especially on the internet, where there are so many different perspectives and there are so many different things that you can decide to live your life with. There's so many different inputs that you just feel overwhelmed by it because there's no specific framework. But that's okay. There doesn't need to be a specific framework for how you're going to live your life, because it's your life. But I think there is a specific framework as to what not to do, because I think that's a lot more defined and easier to notice. So that's the concept of this episode. I hope that it was interesting for you, and I hope that it gave you some insights and at least some perspective and something to think about. Tomorrow, in tomorrow's episode of the 365 podcast, it'll be a lot less like I guess philosophical, psychological, idea based, because the last few episodes have for sure been just me talking about a certain idea that I've had, that I've seen, and that I wanted to just kind of develop a little bit. But yes, this is just an idea that I'm thinking about, and I think it really does make sense. Tomorrow will be maybe a more chill episode. So if you like these types of episodes, let me know. But if you like the more chill episodes, yes, also let me know what you prefer in the comments, of course, on this show. I make an episode every day for 365 days. We're approaching the end of this episode, which is crazy. We've done over 300 podcast episodes, which is crazy. It's insane. So there's many great episodes for you to watch. Of course, any way that you can show your support to the show, I'd appreciate it. If you made it this far, truly, I appreciate you for being here. But also, I ask that you show your support by leaving a like, subscribing to the show on YouTube, following on Spotify, of course. And yes, watching some of the other great episodes I made on this show, which I leave in the cards. You can find them in the description, of course, as I do at the end of every single episode. So thank you. Thank you for being here, of course. But yes, with all the episodes that I've made on the show, there are many great concepts, but this is an idea that is definitely very interesting. If you were interested in this idea, that if it intrigued you, if it piqued your curiosity in some way, please let me know by showing your support on the show. But that is all I gotta say for today's episode of the 365 podcast. Thank you for watching, as always. Thank you for being here. Continue to glorify God every day throughout your life. And remember that it is easier for you to figure out what not to do than it is to figure out what specifically to do. And if you can kind of find a life philosophy based on that principle, you're doing very well for yourself. So thank you for watching. And as always, I will see you tomorrow for the next episode.